Welcome to the Plaid Studio. Today we're going to do another Let's Paint FolkArt One Stroke hometown lesson. Hi, I'm Donna Dewberry. I'm the original creator of the FolkArt One Stroke painting technique. And all year long we've been doing hometown painting lessons, all to fill a beautiful gallery in your home. Each month we picked out homes and doors and windows that you might see in your hometown. I even did a great barn we painted together. And today we're gonna do a country church. And I love this church. We put a little picket fence on the side. We even put a red door and some beautiful flowers all in front so that you can just lush up this painting with beautiful colors. So let me share with you that what puts this all together so easy for us is a beautiful Let's Paint hometown kit. And in this kit, step by step, we have everything you need to do the lessons with me each month. What I love most is my FolkArt multi-surface paint. This paint is luscious, creamy, vivid colors, and it even has a sealer inside the paint. So as we paint these different surfaces, it works perfect on wood, canvas. You even can paint on ceramic and glass with it. It's wonderful. I also have the FolkArt One Stroke brushes inside the kit. We've put templates and patterns, which I usually have never had before, so that makes it really easy for you for the structure of the house and the church and the doors. We also have great stencils with upper and lowercase letters in it to make it that easy for you to make the different words and sayings that you might want. So the great part of this project is you have everything you need when you get one of these wonderful kits. To find out more about the kit, go to plaidonline.com/Let's Paint and look for the Hometown Let's Paint kit. So are you ready to start painting? Let's go to the studio and do our hometown church. Welcome to the studio. Today we're going to be painting the June hometown church. All right, this is June's lesson, and there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about before we start this beautiful painting. And we're going to talk about the surface, and we're going to talk about how to get our patterns on and all of our supplies. But guess what we need? We need our hometown kit. And in the hometown kit, you're going to have the reusable teaching guides. So we're going to paint on these, practice, wipe it off, and paint again till we're ready to put it right on our surface. We're also going to have our double loader here. So I've got my double loader going. I've got some paints already in it. It's in the palette. We've got floaty medium. Floaty medium is the fluff that's inside the paint with no pigment. So that's going to make it easy for you to paint one stroke with. And after you load your brush with the two colors or multiple colors, we're going to use floaty medium when you feel like you need water. But we're not going to use water. All right, so now we're also going to use amazing paint. This is my go-to paint. It's the FolkArt multi-surface paint. I love that it's all encompassed with beautiful, vivid colors. It's thick and creamy, wonderful paint, and it goes on a multitude of surfaces. So glass, metal, wood, indoor, outdoor. And the reason it can do all that is it has a beautiful sealer inside the FolkArt multi-surface paint. So I want you're going to have all the colors in the kit that we're going to do on all our surfaces and projects during this year. And hometown's all about the church in your town. That's what we're working on today. And what I'm thrilled about is I loved this surface. It's a really fun wood. It's like a plank that you find in the hobby stores right now. And this one has some distressing on it. It was white and then kind of sanded and distressed a little bit. I love it. And so what I thought is we'd put the church on here, and to get started inside the kit, we have I think there's like 9 of these pages, two-sided with patterns and templates for phrases and words that you're going to just have a great time with. Now, what I'm showing you here is that's the shape of a house, but this time I used it for the church. And all I needed to do was make the church a little taller. So I traced this out first onto my tracing paper. So you would just get tracing paper and trace the main house out on here first. All right, this is how it's going to be easy for you. Then we're going to put that up because you're going to use it again along the way in one of your projects, I'm sure. And then what we did was we added the red to extend the pattern. So we wanted it taller. We wanted to put the roof line here and the roof line over the door. Put a couple of windows, but you know what? Make it your church. This is what I did. So if you look at this, you can see we have the bell tower, the steeple, the cross. We have everything on there ready to go. And so I just want to share with you how I traced this on. Now, the first thing I wanted to do is take my ruler, and I like a see-through ruler because it's easy to lay it on here. It's 3 1/4, and I made 2 little marks on here so that I have it at the same distance. And I made sure, if you look at our project here, I made sure that I have this band across the bottom so that I can do the path and some flowers up close. All right, so that's what I chose. I also chose to do it over to the side. So if you're putting it to the side of your project, it's about 1 1/4 inches over from this edge, or 2 fingers. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to lay this on here by measuring, not by just eyeing it like I did, but I measured to make sure that it is lined up. So a double check helps because, you know, I'm not a perfectionist, but I really don't like it when the lines are all cockeyed and crooked. And Miss Chris has been working with me all year long to do words that are all lined up perfect. And I've picked up her tricks. I love them. So let me share with you what happens is I then, I used to just sit here and trace it, but it was never accurate and really straight. So what's really nice is to take the ruler and use your stylus, all right? I've used a ballpoint pen before, but then it messes up your pattern. Okay, what makes it easier for me is I do all the vertical lines. So I'm going along here, every vertical line, so I don't miss any, all the way across, even this line on the door, all the way over. Okay, and I didn't say this graphite is going to be shiny side down, and it can be well used. It doesn't hurt anything. And the matte side of this is up. And you want a gray. You definitely wouldn't want white. You wouldn't see it. And so I did all the vertical lines, then I do the horizontal lines from the top coming down and making sure that I get all those lines straight on here. Now, I don't want to end right here. I want to end on this lower extension that we did. I also want the door to come all the way down. Now I did this layout for the church, but your church might be different. It might be double doors, windows on the side. You make it yours, okay? So you trace it all on. It's really good to tape this first piece so that you can put this here and you can keep lifting it to see if you got it, all right? So that makes your project go a lot easier, okay? Now, the next thing I want to show you is that we are going to base coat. The white, even though this is white, we want 2 coats of white to get a nice white. So we're going to start base coating the white, and then we have the wicker whites going here, licorice, and the windows. There's a moon yellow and white, and there's I didn't pull out the yellow yet, but we have apple red. So let me go ahead and put the yellow so I don't forget what I'm doing here. Put a little bit of moon yellow and we'll be ready to make that light colored. And also, let's put some yellow ochre because we're going to do the first coat to the bell, all right? So now I like to tap the bottom of this and it spreads out the paint for you, and we're ready to go. All right, now I'm going to try to put this palette someplace else so I'm not covering what I want you to be looking at, okay? So first thing we're going to do, we're going to use our FolkArt One Stroke brushes, and these are going to be essential, and they're also in your kit. And the important part of them is that our brushes have a nice spring and they have a great chisel. So this chisel is going to be important. If you're a newbie, this is the chisel, this is the flat of the brush. All right, so we're going to pick up our wicker white, and I'm going to do both sides of the brush and make sure I get a good load. All right, so the thing that I want to share with you, where you're not going to see it much on this because it's white on white, is I like to chisel edge the straight edges. Okay, and if you pre-do this beforehand, okay, if we pre-do that beforehand, then it's really easy to stroke down from there. All right, and this is lots of paint, but this is your first coat. So just remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. We let this dry and put another nice coat on here. I'm gonna do a straight line there. And it doesn't matter if it's absolutely perfect. If you go over the lines a little bit, it doesn't show or hurt much. But if it was another color, like if you did the church all gray, or I'm gonna go right over that window, because it's gonna be yellow, I can do that. All right, we're going to come right along here. I just want to share a little tip with you is if you come along here and you're laying this flat and you try to get your edge that way, you're going to go out. Often the paint itself is going to bulge out. And then by the time you go and clean that up and clean it up, you've made your line way bigger than what you wanted it to be, okay? So I'm going to come underneath here also. All right, and you're going to go in all the grooves. Get it nice and clean. Some of the grooves are cracked all the way to the back, and some of them are kind of closed up. All right, so after the first coat, the second coat covers really well too. Now the same thing here, I'm going to go over that window there a little bit, where the bell's going, and I'm going to go around here, chisel, and flat. Okay, I don't want any ridges, so do a last minute coat and make sure that you don't see any major ridges. Now let's clean out that brush, and this door right here is going to be the apple red. So I've got the 3/4 inch, and I'm going to go pick up here, good coat of apple red. I love the apple red because you can shade with burnt umber, berry wine. There are all kinds of colors you can shade with. We're going to shade with licorice, and all these details, by the way, are on your worksheet. Okay, so we're going to go to our worksheet as we pick up the colors, as we shade. It's going to tell you which colors, like this says right there, what brush you're going to use, the 2 colors to get that, and the ironwork right here. It says moon yellow and wicker white to paint the inside that window, which we'll do. Shows you how to do the shingles on the bell tower or a steeple roof. And then right here is going to list all the colors. So you should pull out your colors, pull them out. And my little guide is, I like to tell you to go put your paints all back in the box and keep them, because the minute I take them out of the box, I never find them again. And then they're not in one place when I need them. And it shows you the brushes that we're going to use. So all these steps to do everything that's on our project today, besides the video, are going to be on your handy little reusable teaching guide. Okay, so I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to get your red door in here. All right, by the time I coat it really well, you might not need another coat, but you can later. All right, so also, did you know you can pick up your project and move it around? So many people ask me that. And I'm like, of course you can. Now see, I've got a little ridge there. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but I like to just wipe that off. Or I wipe it into the body of the, right here, into the body of the church, instead of, because it's white, it doesn't matter, but it will matter if you're base coating something and that happens. That's what you do. You can use a paintbrush or your finger and just brush it in to where you're stroking from. Okay, so see, I've got a nice coat on here. And what I love is it gives texture to the door of the church, because you see all the wood grain. All right, so let's wash this out and go back here again and realize the things that you're going to have to paint in the colors, because that makes it easier for you. All right. right, and I'll tell you sometime to stop the video and get caught up and not stress yourself. All right, so I'm gonna take the 3/4 inch again after I've cleaned it and put some licorice on here, and I'm going to steady my hand and do the little chisel here, and I probably should use a 12 for that, but I'm gonna go ahead while I've got it here and show you. All right, and then we can tap here and tap there. All right, and that's too close. So I should get my 12, which I'm going to stop and do it right now to show you that we are going to go around here easier with the 12 on the small details. 12 flat. All right, so I'm going to come right along here and do the little scallops of the roof. Sorry, I'm being noisy. There we go. All right, same thing here. I chisel along here, and chisel along here. I like the bigger brush to chisel so we make sure that we have a nice straight line. Okay, and then I like to take this 12 instead of a script liner, flatten the brush, and I like to go ahead and do the cross with this instead of a liner, because the liner sometimes will get a little shaky and move around on you. Okay, and then we're going to come from this side and come from this side, okay? All right, oh, so go ahead and fill this in. All right, so we've got all of that done. We have to then do this roof area. So like if you come right here, you're going to do that to both sides. You're going to go along here, and I'm not doing the 3/4 because I want to use this brush inside to fill this in. You get a little bit of a situation here where it goes down in, and so I really worked hard to get that to look like it wasn't too big. But you might touch it up with a liner here and there if you don't cover it really good. Okay. Now I'm going to go back and do this bottom. Just keep looking at your guide to make sure everywhere that you're going to be doing this too. And I'm going to look at our sample really quick in a minute. So I'm going to pull this slowly along here and here. Okay, so I'll tell you, usually don't ever do it flat, but this was big enough that I could do it flat right there. All right, but I've got a little trick to show you. So see, I got over here. So I like to take a wet, clean brush with a good chisel, and I can come right along here and clean this up, unless you're perfect. I'm never perfect on it. All right, so that's too much water, but see, I'm going to come right along here and just clean it right up. And you pick this up and put it right on your paper towel, and it's easy to clean it up this way, okay? That's a little on my tips and tricks. That's what I tell people. Look how easy that is, because if you get a wadded paper towel and you start wiping it, you're going to mess up everything on there. All right, I just want to show you a couple more things right in here. I'm going to pick up the white and the moon yellow, and I'm going to fill in this window here, which is going to kind of look a little bit like a stained glass, but it's going to have metal cross hatching on it. Okay, so that's just one light coat because it's already white underneath. And the other thing I want to tell you, that I want to share with you, is that I'm going to pick up yellow ochre, and I'm going to make a little bell here. So I just went up and over, but you can trace this on if you want. But before I go further than that, let's go back and refresh our memory here on what this is going to be. So here's the bell. I'm just going to show you right here the blending you're going to do to get that color. All right, so here was the yellow ochre, and see, you can see inside the bell. So I did yellow ochre, and then I'm gonna side stroke. Let's look at this really quick here. I'm gonna side stroke some wicker white. All right, so the wicker white, as you come across, is going to go right there. All right, so, and we're gonna stroke that right on here and let you see. Actually, we're gonna do that when we do our shading. Oh, I couldn't find my, here we are. I have a little eraser made up ready, so I folded my paper towels in quarters, and then I'm ready to clean off as I practice, okay? We haven't practiced much yet, but we will on those guides, all right? So you can see how I put that there. It's gonna need 2 coats. So we're gonna put this first coat here, and I want the bell to come out just a little curve down here. All right, but this is just the first coat, all right? And then I took the 2 script liner and I dip dotted. Did a dip dot by going right here, and then I dotted it here. But one thing I did do is I did a second one so it looks like it's hanging. And when we come back, we're going to put the clapper in there and do the shading after it's all dry. So this is what I want to do. I would love for you to pause and then finish this up. Do your 2 coats here. I've only got 1 coat. Put your roof lines in and everything that we've done so far right from here. Let's look at it one more time. We want to put in the base coat for the bell. We have all the licorice roof lines and the red door. And I'm going to go ahead and put a second coat on my red door. Okay, so I've got the base coated, double coats on everything. Hopefully you guys are ready. All right, so what we're gonna start with is we are going to float. So if you haven't floated before, it's a nice shading. Look over here. It's the shading that goes around here, the shading in the grooves here, and it just gives you depth. And also, if we shade under here, you're going to be able to see all the gingerbread detail that I put on here, all right, and these eaves up here. So let's get going. We are going to shade, and then we'll put the roof on, the shingles, okay? And there we go. So let's see how we're going to get this floating going here. We're going to use the large 3/4 inch flat brush first, because I want to show you having a large brush makes the floating go well, and larger than you feel like you would use, okay? So I'm going to put some wicker white here, and I'm just going to get a little bit of licorice because we just want a medium gray. So I might need a little bit more, and that's too much. So we'll go back and forth. Now, what's going to happen is that we want a color that's darker than the color that we're floating around. And so if you had a blue sky and you added white to the blue sky, then you would use the true blue color that was the solid blue before you blended it down. But so it needs to be darker. So right in here, we're going to put darker gray than the color that we have here, which is all white. So let me share with you what happens here. We're going to use floating medium. It's the fluff, remember, that's inside the paint with no pigment. So I'm going to dip into the medium when we're floating. Usually we just dip a teeny bit and we work it into our brush when we're just double loading. But when we're floating, we dip it in and we get a nice coat on this brush. Now, if you wet this brush, you're going to lay it on the paper towel and make sure there's no excess water in here. Then we get our medium and work it into the brush. All right, now you're going to do that quite often. But what we're going to do now is we're going to find a spot right here to side load the medium gray blend that we made. Okay, so see, it's just on the one corner. All right, so one of the first places I'm going to go is I'm going to come right along here and do the side of the house and under the roof line. All right, so I'm going to go over that a couple of times to blend it down. See, instead of doing flat, you'll see, watch me, I'm on an angle kind of, because I'm putting pressure on that corner. And I'm just going to keep blending till I get the blend I want, the floating I want along here. So it's a gradual float. It's not the whole width of the brush. So if you've got that whole width showing, then we need to be more careful when we're going there or go over it a few times. All right, I did that on purpose, so I'm going to show you how to wipe this off. I'm taking a wet brush and I'm just going to pull off some of this gray. All right, right there. I was being careful, but it still went over. Okay. All right, now you can do the 12 on a bigger area, but what happens is it's just going to be a lot more work. And I like the look I get when I use the bigger brush. Okay, so we want the gray all along here. All right. And then we're going to come right along here. And I'm going to turn this around so I can get this side easier. I'm going to go back here. I still have plenty of medium. I just need more gray. And I'm going to come right along here. Now you're going to see that this is heavier. So I'm just going to put it down first. Then I'm going to go back and forth to clean this up. Okay? And then right under the roof line. And the reason we want it under there, remember, is I told you that we're going to put that little detail work that's going to hang over. And if it's white on top of white, it's not going to show well, right? I'm going to take the 12 flat, and I'm going to get a little bit of that floating medium on this 12 again, like I did on the 3/4, and then I'm going to side load the gray. All right? So I want to come here and just do a little bit more shading because I have to have enough that the little details are going to show. I can put a little bit under the yellow window. And we want the gray tone floated right under here also. You see that? Okay, see, feel comfortable to really go back and forth on it because that's how you're blending it to get that look that we want. All right. Now, I do want this to look like it's a little entrance into the church. So what I did on here is I came on this side. All right. Right here so you can see that. And then this is a little bit off, so because of the groove is a little bit on this other side. So I'm going to put this gray line on this side, which is easy to get straight lines because you've got that groove there. So see, that's all ready. I can even put a little bit of gray tone so you can tell I ran out of medium. See that? Let's get a little bit more floating medium and go right along here and down the side. So it's does exactly for us what we want it to. And it floats this shade here so that what happens is it gives you the impression that this is lifting, there's depth. Okay, see the depth there? And I'm going to come on this side and do the other side, but now look what happens. I kept coming in a little bit over here. So I can, since there's so much floating medium on there, I can take and clean that right up. All right. And there we go. All right. So we've gone around all of that. Now this is what I feel like we ought to do at this point is the grooves looked really good on this wood piece. And this wouldn't naturally be on your teaching guide because it depends on your surface. But I just want to show you, see how we went in and shaded all those grooves and extra medium gray on the outside edge. So I don't know that I have enough already mixed, but we're going to take our 3/4 and we're going to get, we don't have enough. So let's get some more. Let's put some white, little stronger licorice, wicker white and licorice is what we're going to be using. Gonna get some more wicker white. So after we've got the grooves, let's get floating medium on the 3/4 inch brush again. And then let's get a little bit of side load. And let's go on both sides of this with plenty of the floating medium and get a little bit of an edge along here. All right, and we're gonna do it on both sides. And it just ages it a little bit. I think it's gonna give it a nice look. All right, on each one of these. And that floating medium makes a big difference because it makes it move for you. Okay, more floating medium. And as we come down here, we're going to have a fence and garden, and we have a tree on the other side. So I'm just going to come down a little bit. But as I'm doing this, I want to show you that we also added some of this floating to the corners. Now, I always come back and decide if I want this at the end, but since we have a project that we saw that it looked good doing that, we can go ahead and do it now beforehand. But if you get all done and you say, I wish I would have aged the edges, look, all you're going to do is come in here and with the corner, all right, the corner, and decide how much you want showing there. All right, you can go across the top. Because the floating medium is very forgiving, so you can keep working on that to get it as deep of a color or as much as you want across here. Doesn't that add a lot? I think that added a lot to it. There we go. A little bit more floating medium, more gray. Okay, so now let's do our shingled roof. So I'm going to work on the top and start working down on my detail, all right? But I am going to turn this sideways. And I'm going to pick up some wicker white and licorice and work this in. Now, you could float just the white, but when I double load like this, it makes it easier for you to do. So wicker white on the 12, wicker white and some licorice. And this is how you're gonna feel comfortable doing it. We're gonna come right here and practice on here. We come right on the teaching guide. We make sure that the shading's right. We come right here and get the right shading. And then we do the stroke right there. And you do each shingle separate. You don't just go like doing an M or a W across there. You just practice that till it feels comfortable. And then make sure you take your handy little paper towel eraser and take it off right then because this paint's made to stay. All right, so I'm gonna turn this way so I can get to it easier. I'm gonna dip into white and come over here and work it in. And this is easy to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so then on the next one, we're gonna do one less because we're gonna make the shingles get smaller. So we're gonna do 1, 2, 3. And see how easy it blends for you? And then up here, I might just do a couple right there. And there's your shingle, okay? All right, I did them a little bigger. You can do them smaller if you want. All right, and then let's do, next thing down is, next item we're gonna paint down is doing a little bit more on that church, the bell. So I'm gonna take a little bit of moon yellow and yellow ochre on the 12. And you notice I clean these brushes out in between each step. All right, and then I'm gonna work a little bit of white in. Okay, so I want the underneath of this bell to first be down here. So I'm gonna do the bottom stroke. Then I'm going to come right here on the top and do a top stroke. Now I need a little bit more white because I want this to really stand out. So I'm coming up and over to there. And then right up here, I put a little bit of a highlight, which ended up being a lot of highlight. So I'm cleaning this off. Remember our little trick, we just clean with a wet brush and take off any of that little bit that we're not happy with. You beginners are gonna like this little trick because even as who've been around for a long time love to touch it up. All right, so what I'm gonna do is do my dip dot there and do the clapper there, right there, and it's not showing very well, so I'm gonna put a little bit dip dot of white on it. There we go. And then make the little piece of metal there that's gonna hold that clapper. And put it in there. You don't really see it, so I'm just gonna pull this down here. And then I put a little highlight there, okay? So now let's work on this window. I'm taking my 2-script liner, and I say we don't use water with my technique. We use water only if I'm doing inky, and we're doing small details. So I'm picking up a little bit of licorice and a little bit of water, and I'm making circles, and I'm rolling it to see if I get a nice, not watery, not pasty. Do not use floating medium to thin this. It does not work the same, okay? You can then take, all right, and we're gonna outline along here with just the tip of your brush. All right, so we're gonna come down along here and along here. Okay, now I don't stress myself out about that being exact. So if you are a precise person, it's going to be, my painting is going to drive you maybe crazy. Hopefully you're going to be happy. All right, so because I'm going to help you loosen up. So I'm going to go from the corner, all right, and then I come here and go all the way to the corner. And then I kind of just space them out about the same. All right, and then we're going to start crossing across about the same amount of space. All right, and you can make them a lot smaller than this, or you can just do like I did and make it loose. All right, and I did like stroke some white over that if I want to glare in the window a little bit later, but you can do that with a little floating medium. All right, so the next step up here before we come down is I'm going to take the wicker white and I'm going to make it a little inky, because I need a nice amount of paint on here. If it's too thin, it won't show. All right, I've got enough paint, I don't need fresh yet. Do you see that? All right, so this is where we get a little tricky. Some of this doesn't even show, but that's a good place to practice, is where we're not sure if it's gonna show. But I'm gonna start up here first. I'm gonna steady with my little finger, and I'm gonna do little loops. All right? And if you start here at the top, and as it comes down, see, you don't see this very well, but the tree is going to be covering that. So that shows you if you did a little bit darker floating underneath, it would have shown better, right? Okay, so let's come on this side, and we're going to do another little loop. All right, and see how nice that shows over there? And I keep rolling into the paint again. Okay, and down here it gets covered also. Okay, I also came back a little bit. If this didn't show well enough, I did come here and add a little bit more. If your floating wasn't strong enough, I mean your stroking, double loading wasn't quite strong enough, just remember you can do that. You can also touch a little bit of the cross if you want to. But here again, we're going to start at the peak again and then decide how much of a little scallop that you want, the trim on here. Okay? And you do it on the other side. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do in this area is I took and added just a little bit of licorice. I want to do a little light over here, so I did it right in here. Wait a minute, this brush isn't staying together. There you go. I'm going to do one and come straight across here and do the second one. Okay, now before I want you to see there's lights on the side and then there's hinges and doorknobs. Before I do those, I want to come in here and float some licorice on the red door with the 12. So I got 12 full of floating medium, and then I'm going to pick up some licorice, and this just gives you nice shading, and the door has grooves like it's wood already. Makes it really nice, and we just come right down the side. Now you see how I do that? I start light there, and I've got it heavier as I come down. All right. And then I did have some heavier on the bottom. All right, where the threshold would be. All right, now what's going to happen is I put the greenery and stuff in here at the bottom. Then we are going to have a little stoop, and I'll shade it better there with the licorice too when we get ready to do that. All right, so now what we're going to do is take that 2-script liner, and we're going to dip dot and get the light on there. We're going to do the moon yellow, and then we're going to make an oval circle because it's a flame. It's an oval there instead of a circle. Okay, and then I'm going to pick up some more licorice. So the licorice now, I'm going to put hinges, and so I do 2 little strokes of licorice, and then I'm going to come, you can look at this on the guide, then we're going to come and put white over it. All right, so then the door, what happens over here is that you can do the dip dot for the handle and then put licorice around it. So I made a circle and another dot. And this is wicker white. And then you can pull this white down with the licorice. I grab the white, then I'm going to take a little bit of licorice under here, a little bit under there, and that just gives you an illusion of some depth there. And so I rolled the 2-script liner into the thick white, and you can put a detail on the door if you want, but I want you to see I put a little bit of white shading there. All of this is on your guide, so be sure to go look at your guide and get all that detail, okay? Just like it shows you the little scallops around the edge. Okay, so what I want to do before we go further is there's greenery behind fences, and let me show you what happens here. All right, so look at this. We have it all back in here and all back behind the fence, and it comes all the way down into the front. And so if you go to your guide, it's going to tell you what colors were used under here, and the foreground and the background. And so we have a little bit of sap green with citrus to get all that shading back there. So I'm going to add those 2 colors and put this on there so that we're ready to build the front of our design. This is sap green and citrus green. Okay, and we're just going to put this greenery in here so it can dry. Okay, so all in here, about right there. And the tree is going to go back there. See, I picked up floating medium. I have little bits of this color, little bits, and have that all across here. Because I want this to dry before we start adding the trees and the landscape, okay? And also the stone walkway, floating medium, sap green, and citrus. Okay, and we're going to do this whole area. We're going to let that dry, and then we'll be ready to put our fence and our trees in. Okay, so see, I'm just doing an uneven stroke of those two colors with lots of floating medium. All right. And there's lots of painting that's going here, but just in case, I want all this behind here. And we have a fence that goes here, so because of that, I want it darker. See right in here? A little bit darker, and then I'm gonna put a hedge behind there. So there we go. All right, we got it higher back here because this is where the tree and all goes. So now we're gonna let that dry and we'll be back to do the rest of our ground. Okay, so we've got this background dried and I am looking at what's going to be next, and it helps you to go right to your worksheet and see, let's work on this tree, and then I want to end up putting in my fence. And so if I want you to look at where I'm going to lay those two items first. First of all, I'm going to come a little bit, here's the tree. It's about the same spot right here. So I'm bringing that to the side with a piece of chalk, and I'm just going to get this trunk in place because I don't want to get bigger and bigger and bigger on the trunk. I'm just trying to get a nice shape here, and we're going to split it right in here. Okay, so there's that. Then we need our stone walkway. So I'm going to come just putting it in there, chalking it so that we know where that's going to be. And then this little fence that we put in here, it's like 2 fingers up because it sets back a little bit. So I'm just going to come across here so you see, and I wanted this green behind the fence itself, and then we're going to put a hedge above it. Okay, and all of that is right here on your guide so you can see everything that we're going to accomplish. Okay, right here it's going to tell you that the stone walkway was some wicker white, yellow ochre, and burnt umber to base coat that walkway. So we want to get that first, and I already put some in here. All right, so let's take your 3/4 inch flat, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of medium and get some burnt umber. This floating medium, burnt umber, yellow ochre. I'm going to work that in, and whatever other color it said, wicker white. So we get all that in there with the floating medium. All right, so I'm just going to come along here and come across, and this is just going to be the base coat. All right. Now, and we're going to have lots of shading to get it darker as it comes to the front. But right now, I just want to get that in there. And it's perfect timing to lay that in when I'm going over here to do the tree. And so I'm doing the same thing, a little bit of yellow ochre and burnt umber, and mix it in the same spot right here with a little bit of white, floating medium. All right, and then I'm going to start down here on the chisel on this edge. Oops, I touched that. On this edge, I'm going to come up, all right, and let's see what it does. It comes up a little bit over this roof here, and then I split the trunk so it has a branch that goes up there, and I want a little bit more burnt umber, the dark brown, okay. Keep picking up that burnt umber. And we need that darkness there. It's going to make a difference. And you can even come in here a little bit. Maybe put a little bit of licorice. Just a teeny bit to get some of this shading. I really want the darkness. Okay. All right, so we've got that in. I then put a little bit of licorice on this one side. A little bit across here. We're going to put greenery and all on the sides, but I also am going to go ahead and put a little bit on the bottom here so it just finishes it off. All right. So to make this work well for us here, we can go right now, and you can sit here and draw out some stones, but this is what I did. I did floating medium on the 12 flat, and I grabbed a teeny bit of burnt umber and maybe even some licorice. Okay, see how that floating medium, I just want it on one corner. Okay, so then if you keep this up here so you can see, I did the little bit of a walkway here. All right, and mostly what I'm doing is I mostly did one side. And I just made the stones come in here. And you can take a licorice script liner and put some more detail around some of these stones if you want to. But some of them just look good like this. Now watch again when I did. I already have floating medium, so I just get some burnt umber. And as I come forward, there's more licorice there. But then I shaded it real dark at the front and put some leaves on it. But I still like to put it there because some of it might peep through. All right. So we slightly go out to an angle so it's better, so it looks like as it's getting closer to you, it's heavier. All right. So those are all in. So let's put this white picket fence in here. So what I did was just really loose white on the 12. I didn't make it perfect. I decided at least you know where it's going to be. So I just kind of came down like this, and I am pushing slightly down. Touch, lean in the direction I'm heading, and pull it, and I'm getting these tighter here. All right, and I'm going to put lots of stuff down here at the bottom, greenery and foliage. So I'm not worried about how the bottom looks. I'm doing more about getting this top. All right, so we're going to pull these. Real tight. And see, we want to see that green through there. All right, it's too hard to go back later and try to put that green. And then I'm going to come across with this white and a little bit of this color blend that we have here, which is the wicker white, the burnt umber, and a little bit of yellow ochre. And so I'm going to come across here, kind of where we put that chalk, and then a little bit more and do the top piece. But what makes this look good up here is when I'm all done, not right now, but I make a little squiggly licorice all through there after I get through. So it's just a rustic looking fence that's there, but you definitely see it's a fence. Now after I get through the top, I come and touch up the little bits of white because you can see it's drying up and it's not so white, and I do want it whiter than that. All right, so now what we're going to do is there's two things on our little guy here where we're scruffing a little bit with my scruffy brush, okay, in the background, and then we do these little slip slap corners on the front. All right, so see how that's there, and I have some browns from the burnt umber, citrus green, sap green. I give you all those colors. Now this is kind of behind the church, but I came on front of the church there so that you could see the detail there. All right, so I'm going to pick up, like it shows you, the two colors. This brush is dry. The half-inch scruffy is dry when we're using it. All right, and if you clean it out in the water by pouncing and cleaning it, you dry it totally and put it up until you're ready again. All right, so I'm going to come in here and pounce just the background, and then I like coming on top and putting some texture, and I like to put a little bit on the side over here. All right, so I kind of did the same thing here, even though we're going to do in this area we're going to do some more detail up here, but if I just put a little bit of this in there, then it fills in quicker, and I'll show you that in a minute. All right, so then all along here on the side, before I do too much detail on the fence, I'm going to pick up, say, sap and citrus, okay? So I can also get a teeny bit of white and work that in, wicker white, sap green, and citrus green. So I'm going to take some all along here. You can tell I need more sap green. And I used to do most of my greenery with a scruffy brush, but I found I like to have a different foliage. And so to get different foliage, it works better to have a mixture of not just all scruffy, okay? A little bit down in here where I told you you're not going to see, we need some white. All along here. And then we're going to come right up to there and come right over here. And a little bit down around here. All right, so we're only doing the stuff in the very back, the painting in the very back, and we're coming forward. All right, so that's just the quickie way to get some in here, and some of you are very happy with just that, but I want you to add more, okay? So I'm going to put that scruffy down right now. I'm going to go back and reinforce the white again on these little guys before I start doing the hedge. Do we get a little bit more white there? I'm going to go ahead over the brown and not worry about it. Then I'll get a second good coat on here. All right, a little bit of brown. Come back across. You already got the markings, so you know where it goes. A little bit across here. All right. So then you can see on here, I came and did a little bit of wood graining, just a little bit more than I did here, because you can see some of the marks. But if you just come back and do a couple knots on this tree, it gives you a nice look. And that's all right here. Okay, so this is what we're doing. We're taking the corner of this brush of the 12 flat, sap green, and we're just going to just do the little bits of corner of sap. All right, and same thing, we go right into the citrus and do the same thing. All right. Then there's another greenery I want to show you where I'm tapping, as I'm putting one little dot, while I tap on the chisel, and then I start dotting with the corner. Same thing happens to the darker green. I tap down, and then I'm make the little green coming down. So I have a few of those stock greenery there, and I'm going to make me another quick eraser. And now we're going to start doing the top of the tree, all right? Like, don't forget, I said wipe this off as you go so it doesn't dry on your guide, all right? Now, what we're going to do is you can look at this. I picked up, if you look at this a little closer, I picked up some of this white citrus, and I'm going to sweep the corner. See, just like this corner here, I'm sweeping it. Instead of just scruffy, we wanted some of this movement. All right, so I'm putting a little bit of that in here. Okay, then I'm going to come in here with more sap green. Just keep picking up that sap and working that in. A little bit of sap. And then we're going to pick up some burnt umber. And I am going to come in here just a little bit and get some of that burnt umber in there. So it just looks like the trees peeping through or whatever. All right, so just have fun working on the foliage. You can come back and put bigger spots of white and citrus. Not nice and quick. It looks like you did more than the scruffy. Scruffy might be really good for some of you and you'll be really happy. All right, so before I pounce all the flowers in here, I want to pounce the flowers all in here before I put extra green there. But we're gonna come over here with darkers, because I like that. You start with dark and go lighter over here. It helps you see the depth and this hedge here. So, and I don't want it really straight like it's a groomed hedge. Take it around the side. All right, and I need some more sap green. All right, so we've got that, and when we do, before we do any of this pouncing in here, I'm going to put a little bit more detail over here. So I've got more to go here first. Back and forth, little dabs. So now that we have dark, then we can come in here with some citrus. See how bright that is? There we go. And I came in with a little bit of citrus and white. Let's get some white for the other side. Now you can see I got 2 white right there. Just work it in some more. All right, I did have a few spots where I took the green up, just here and there. But now let's look at these across the front here, like I was showing you earlier. You can have just little dots here, and then pounce down. And I have some more higher over there, but they're not showing too well, so let's just get this here. All right, so let's get sap green now. All right, so I'm going to work with the corner. All right, a little bit in here. And a little bit here. So all we do to finish this off is get bigger as we come down. See, there we go. All right, and I have a little bit on this side. All right, a little bit in here. So if you kind of tap it where you want it to be, then it makes it a little bit easier to come back and do little teeny dabs. I'm going to put a little citrus with the sap. Okay. So I do put some little soft other flowers down at the bottom to give it color. But I'm going to come right in here, add a little bit here, a little bit there. And there we go. So now I'm going to just pounce in before I add some front greenery. I'm going to pounce in some of this color that we talked about. All right, so I was going to show you that I'm going to still use this again, so I happen to have a second one. I'm going to fluff this scruffy a little bit before I fill it. All right, so that way it gets a really pretty fluffy look. All right, so this one was already fluffed, so it was able to pounce for me. All right, so I'm using a dry brush, and if you see in here, the yellows and the pinks, we have these little pounces of these little guys in there, and that's what I want to do first, is the pink and white, and then I can come back and add some yellow. So I'm going to come right in here, and I'm pouncing all magenta. Then wicker white and magenta, wicker white and magenta. All right, so what happens here, before we add any leaves, we're gonna come right in here. I'm going to pounce just a little bit of these balls around here and pounce a few of these little clusters of petals that are so small back there that you can't see actual petals, but you're getting the illusion. They're pretty big, but I thought they would be pretty in here. Okay? And I did put just a little bit to bring the pink in here some. Let's see how the white really helps, little bits of white. A little bit in here. Okay, so see how we have all that pink going across there, makes it nice. And then I am gonna clean this brush, so I'm gonna show you that I'm pouncing into the basin. All right, I'm squeezing the ferrule, the silver part of the brush. Then I'm refluffing it. So now I can come in here and get the little bits of yellow. See that little bit of yellow? So I'm pouncing some white and touches of yellow. Now see, if I barely touch it, that I pounced hard. This I'm just gonna do little yellow sprays. Oops, that's a little heavy. I don't want it heavy. Little bits of yellow. I carried some yellow down here. With the white though, the white makes the difference. A little bit of white, a little bit of yellow. All right, so I'm gonna put that in the water because I'm through with this guy. And before I go any further, I'm going to take the 12 flat. See how we're starting to get our details in here? Now I'm going to take floating medium and a little bit of burnt umber. So look at this, a little bit of burnt umber with a floating medium. And I'm going to put a teeny bit of yellow ochre in that to make it a little warmer. And I'm going to come all the way under here and along here. Okay, a little bit more. See how we have some of that brown in there? This is burnt umber. See, I'm just making it little bits. And I'm going to bring a little bit along here just to warm that up there. All right. So I didn't put much on here. I'm just going to take a little bit of brown there. And this one's covered down there. All right. So now to finish those last bits of back there, I'm going to pick up little dabs of green on the corner again. Okay, I'm back to my number 12 flat brush where I'm just putting this on the corners, okay? And I'm starting with the sap green. And then I'm going to go pick up some citrus green. So still doing the sap. Put a little bit up onto the pink. Okay, and you can leave it because that looks pretty good like that, but I'm going to come and just put a little bit of citrus. Because when you mix that in there, look how much better that looks. Little bits of light citrus green. All right. Now, I also came right along here and I'm just slip-slapping that corner like I'm sweeping it. Not slip-slapping, but sweeping it along there. Little bits. And a little bit of citrus. So when you get this in your hand, you just go around and do all the colors you want like that. All right, something like getting to be cute. A little warm, homey country church. All right, I'm gonna, while I'm thinking about, before I forget, I'm gonna do the inky licorice. Roll that brush. And I'm gonna come with a little teeny bit of like wire that's in there, and it's down here too, but you don't see much of that. Okay, so just run it in and out of there a little bit. Okay, and I did kind of touch some of the tops of this if you want to. A little bit. All right. Okay, now this is also where I told you I did a few little lines of stones, if you want. All right. And the last thing we're going to do is just the stuff that's really, a painting that's really close. All right, so what that is over here, I didn't put, I usually put the tall stems of grass in there, but I just pulled these down. So let me show you. All right, both colors, I'm working those in. And then I come way up front here. Let me add some more sap green, sap and citrus. All right, so I'm going to just put a few of these in here, like grass blades, which you can practice right in here and right along there. And then we're going to come back, and the colors that I used on here are, I did magenta and white first, magenta and white. Okay, and I'm leading with the white, so I'm going to pull it down, touch, pull, pull it down. And you can practice this right here on the guide. You're going to practice by touching and pulling, and then practice layering them so that you can see how they would be on there, okay, on the grass blades. Just little pulling strokes. All right, I'm going to put a little bit more over here, and then we'll add some yellow in between. All right. So both of these are going to be on this 12 flat. I double load the magenta and the wicker white on 12 flat, and now the moon yellow and wicker white. All right, so this one I'm going to turn around and lead with the yellow and let the white come after. And the same thing over here. Let's see, I need more white. Just little bits of yellow, more white. Okay, now what I did do right here to finish this off, remember I'm like citrus green on the scruffy, sap green. All these are in your kit, okay? I'm gonna get a little bit of white. And so I really need this dark down here. See that? And then I'm just touching the top edge. So it looks like a little bit of grass. I'm going to take that across the side there. And I'm going to do a little bit on this side too, guys, so that it looks like it was supposed to wrap. All right? So those are pretty easy there. See those, little scruffy? Now we're going to do our big, pretty hydrangea. Okay, so I'm going to put my scruffy away, and I'm going to wash out my 12, and I'm going to, I just noticed I'm going to touch up a little bit of this fence here by taking your chisel edge and some of the green, and any place that I got too much, I can come right in there and make those right in there, the shading, because that's the green you want to see from through the fence, okay? All right, so let's go and practice for a little bit the big hydrangea and the large leaves, okay? So I'm gonna move this out of the way a little bit, and let's practice this a little. We're gonna use, first of all, those large leaves are gonna be put in with a 3/4 flat. All right. So I've got plenty of paint still. So I'm going to wet the brush, double load, citrus green and sap green. Okay, so the only thing that I did that you might want to do here is I wanted a little bit of white on the edge. Okay, and then this is what we're going to do. We're going to start right here, and we're going to wiggle and practice up to the tip. And then I can switch this, excuse me, I can turn this sideways. And the first time you practice on the guide, I want you to go very slow and your eyes to look at the outer edge. All right, but then after you do it a couple of times, I want you to go quicker, and it looks better when you go quicker. Okay. All right, and then you pull a stem right there. All right. So then what we're going to do after you practice that a few times, you're going to be ready. There's one here, one there. You can stroke it a few times. You can also do a smaller version over here with a 12 if you want that on your piece. Now I'm going to put that in, and then we're going to go practice the hydrangea. All right, so I put one of them right up here. Oh, this is what we want to do. We want to take the chalk. So what I'm going to do is decide how the size I want the hydrangea and put a chalk of it there. So I have a piece of one in the back, but then I want this whole area to be one large one right here. All right, and then I did put a little piece over here, which I can also put on there. So I have like 3 there. So what I'm going to do from here is I came right in there, and I went, I know you're going to stroke right on top of that, right? And then I'm going to come right in here, and this is just that leaf you just practiced, so make sure you feel comfortable with it, and you can just stroke it right in there. All right, so then this next one comes all the way over here and goes over the side, the walkway a little bit. So I'm going to come way down here and come up to the point, the tip of the leaf. All right, and I did one more. I just think it gives character to have some of this in front. I love like when it looks like you're taking a photograph and right up close, or is this flower, and then you see everything behind it. All right, so that's where I've got the beginning going here. And that's going to dry while we go practice the hydrangea. All right, so I'm going to pull this guy over here so we can see. All right, see that right there? All right, so let's practice this. And we are going to pick up magenta on the 12 flat. We're going to bring the white over here and grab magenta and white in the double loader. And then you're going to work it in. Magenta and white, and work it in. We're going to split right here and pick up magenta and work our white and work that in. All right. And so let's practice this. You're going to go right here to see, is that the color? Yep. And then see this little arrow? It shows you, you touch and you push. It goes up and over. So then this is like making a gingerbread man where we have the head and arm, and they're numbered too. And the legs. All right. And then I want you to see that you can layer them by putting this back one. We just do 3 strokes. Come back and get more white because that stroke went away. All right, now we're going to layer back on top of that another petal flower. That's a 5-petal flower. All right, and then we just put the centers in. So what I'm going to do is we're going to wipe this off. Just practice till you feel comfortable. Pause the video, practice till you feel comfortable, and then come back and we'll layer them on here. Okay? So to me, these are like a small version of it way in the back. And what we're going to do right here is get more paint And we're going to go right back here and add this little bits of a blossom back here. And it's going to be overlapped by this big flower. All right. Now what's going to happen when you do a larger flower is I'm going to pick up magenta and fill this all in. The big flower. And I'm going to come back and darken back there to put that in the back a little bit later. All right. And I actually can go ahead and darken this one a little bit. Okay, so I thought it'd be nice to have the apple red kind of work into this flower. So I'm going to pick up just little bits of apple red, especially in these in front. I'm going to darken this one so much you won't notice it. But so I mixed in that apple red in here, and I can pick up both those colors. See how that's bringing that in? You can also just put a little bit for depth of that apple red worked into these little guys. See how that just richens it up a little bit? All right, so now in here, remember what I said, we're getting both colors. We're going to work that in, and we're going to come right here and get wicker white. And each time I can come here and get a little bit more wicker white. All right, so this is the first thing I do on a big blossom is I'm going all the way around, more white. All right. All right, now I did all the way around the outside. And now I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. I can come here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then every once in a while, I'll do a complete one. 1, 2. So remember, the head, an arm, a leg, a leg. All right? And so it's real important that you see I'm picking up these colors and I'm flattening it right here. And you don't need floating medium when you're doing stroke flowers with a 12, unless you're on some really dry paper or something when you're painting on cards or something, because you should have enough paint in this brush to paint all of that without getting medium. I want you to be careful with medium because it will make some of your painting strokes very muddy. And the people have even said my medium was dripping. Then you haven't worked the medium into the brush well enough. All right, so I want you to look over here, see how I darken this in here? Okay, that's what we're gonna do to separate that a little bit. And if you don't darken it like that, the other thing you can do is just put little leaves to separate the large from the small. Okay. So after you get comfortable doing these little teardrop petals for this 5-petal flower, they get easier and easier to do. Okay? Now, before I put all the centers, because they might not show, I'm going to go back to my guide and practice these little strokes right here. So I'm going to get citrus and sap and work the citrus green, sap green. And I'm going to see if I've got this blend right. Then I'm going to push down and stand up. Push down and stand up, and you pull a stem into the middle. If you were doing these little ones right here, you just practice right there where you're looking at the outside edge. You also come here to make sure you got enough white. See? And then you do this side. I go over that a little bit. And while you're practicing on this guide, I want you to know that's how it feels when you paint on metal or glass. So if you get comfortable with having enough paint and practicing on there, you'll enjoy painting on a slicker surface because you practiced it on this already. All right, so I'm gonna come in here with the citrus sap like I just showed you, and I'm gonna do a few strokes to separate these blossoms. One there, a little bit here, down here, all right? And right in here, we're just gonna make it dark there. That needs to be dry, so I'm gonna do my lettering and hopefully it's dry enough then that we could come back and put the darker in there. And you can use your stylus or the end of your paintbrush and dip, dot all these little flowers. And you don't have to do every single flower, but just get a nice amount of these in here. Okay. Little bits in here. All right, so you want that to look like it's really close. And what happened here is we wanted to set this, make it a little bit darker. So like it's got some depth because see all that light behind it? You don't see the depth anymore. All right, so I'm gonna get some licorice on the corner with this brush full of floating medium. All right, and so we're just gonna come around here and come around that leaf. I'm gonna go here first because there's too much licorice on here for me to go around the leaf yet. See, and this gives you some more realistic look here by doing that. All right. All right, so I'm going to wipe a little bit of this off so that when I come around here and under here. Okay, so I think I can come in here. And see, this just shades it a little bit darker back there. See how that makes it look like it's in the back? Now, I'm finishing this up with a little dab on the corner of magenta and white, okay? And I just put little bits of that in here. So it looks like it might be a little bit of the hydrangea, little tidbits here, little small buds coming out maybe. There we go. Okay, so isn't that fun? Let's look at our lettering now, okay? So what I want to share with you is Then Sings My Soul, and we were placing this on here, but I want you to see that as we were laying it out in your kit, you're gonna get this right here, okay? So it's the page full of it. You know, grow in grace, walk by faith. There's all sorts of other phrases, amazing grace, peace. There's all kinds of other words you can put here. But what we did was we traced this off on tracing paper and got the exact Then Sings My Soul. Well, when we put it up there, you see it's way small. And we thought, look how nice this looks when it's spread out. So this is a good point for me to be able to share to you that when we laid it out, you can do then, and then move down and over and do sings my, and then move way down here to do soul. So it was able to spread it down and get a good look. And this is easy lettering. As soon as you trace this on, you're going to take graphite paper and you're going to trace it on here just as you would want it here. And then I'm going to show you how we're going to paint it because we've got a sample here so you can see. We're doing different typefaces here. So there's script and then more blocked, and I'm going to show you how simple this can be. We're going to take our 2-script liner, get some water, and make an inky puddle before we even start. And if you look here, I'm rolling it in the paint and then I'm ready to go. So what's gonna happen here, there's a couple of things that I like to do, and that is come along here and do all the little notches that are straight here. Okay, and also the little piece here. Okay, you're gonna have good eyesight. All right, there we go. And what's gonna happen with this is this little liner will fill this all in pretty easily. You're gonna go blocking in all those, and then, let me move this out of the way. There we go. So I'm gonna roll the brush again, and I'm going to just pull this down, push down, and around. Okay, so when I do that, then I'm usually one more stroke down. All right, so turn it so it's comfortable to do. I like to do outline it and then fill in. Okay. So same thing here, I'm coming straight down. This is gonna be straight down. And if I push a little bit heavier, I fill in that whole area. All right, so we're gonna come out here and try this again, pushing down and around. All right, so all you're going to do is fill in all of these, and it'll look just like my there. And that liner is really nice the way it fills in. Just touch up all those ends, tops and ends, okay, and finish that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come in and do the sole. So it's the same way as the then. So I'm inking it up a little bit. So this one I'm going to outline the outside of it all the way around, connecting it. And this is exactly what you traced. And you can, like I said, put any phrase that you want, and then you just fill it in. Nice and smooth. You fill in every letter just like this. All right, and each month we teach you different letter styles, different ways to make your sayings come beautifully in here. There are some spots where you might can cover the whole letter, but it is better to outline and then come back and fill in. All right, so it's going to be more accurate then. Okay. And you're just going to continue doing the whole letter by filling it in just like that. All right, so let's go look at the finished one and see what this turned out like. See, the S even got larger on here, but it turns out where these are kind of fun, more of a little thin block, and then more scripty. Not scroll, scripty. And like I said, on your patterns, remember, we have all these different sayings that you can put on here about grace and love and belief. That's the wrong one right here. Live by faith, grow in grace, walk in love. There's really great ones and different type styles that are nice. Now, I can't wait to go hang mine. I hope you're excited about doing the same with yours. And if you haven't finished, take your time, watch and stop the video as you go until you feel comfortable working on your worksheet, coming and painting. All your tools that you need are right there in your hometown kit. Then Sings My Soul. Wasn't that fun? I love teaching you this project, and I think you're going to sit there and just lose yourself in the beautiful painting as you're doing your hydrangeas and you're doing that pathway from that church. I want you to think about that and get ready to take pictures when you're finished. I am excited to ask you to join our Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group. You will love seeing everybody else sharing their pictures and what they've accomplished during the year. And also, if you will hashtag Let's Paint Challenge and put your picture up, everybody can share with you compliments and things that they love about your painting. So I want to invite you to come back again next month, July, where we are going to be looking out our kitchen window, seeing a basket hanging full of geraniums and morning glories, and I even have another treat for you. We're going to paint a hummingbird. So until next month, let's paint.